Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Paved with Good Intentions, the show where dreams are made. No vegetable wants to be served next to baby carrots. Welcome to another episode of Paved with Good Intentions, the show that asks the difficult questions you didn't even think you cared about. I'm Danielle Kessner of the Colorado Kessners, and this podcast is produced sponsor-free, so thank you for supporting independent artists. Today we'll be talking about music. Finally! But first, here's a piece of random trivia. Did you know between 10 and 12% of people are left-handed? That's a surprising percentage given how many lefties there are in baseball. Being left-handed has often had a negative connotation throughout history, even though it's simply a biological possibility. But on average, left-handers are more talented in spatial awareness, math, and architecture. Hey, at least that's something, right? And now on to our episode, Make Mine Music. And yes, I know that's the name of a Disney movie from the 40s. There's one almost universal truth in society today, and that is everybody loves music. And who wouldn't? Why wouldn't you want to love music? It's something that we can do when we're in the car, when we're hanging out with people. It's just something that's there, and we listen to all kinds of it. And there's such a variety of it that no matter what mood we're in, we can find something that satisfies that need to hear something, to feel a rhythm, to listen to a beat, a song, the instruments, the singing, all that. There's something out there for everybody. And as universal as it is, music is also one of the most divisive subjects that we can bring up. It's one of the simplest things, but it's also one of the most divisive. Unlike some, say, movies, which I talk about a lot on this podcast, apparently. Movies are a little bit easier to get around because, people can watch comedies, people can watch dramas, and it's matter of taste. Everybody has different tastes in movies, but there's usually, enough common ground that people can watch one and then watch the other, and there's really no, bias. It's like, oh, I will only watch, action movies. Although documentaries is probably the one where you get the most vehement people, but either way, I guess the truth hurts sometimes. But music is a little bit different because music, even though it's everywhere, it's in movies, it's on the radio, it's on television, it's everywhere you turn, in the news, there's always something about a musician, pop star, somebody doing something, saying something, whatever. Music is everywhere. And it's such a core part of humanity. As human beings, music has been around since the beginning of time. And even regardless of how universal it is, it's still such a divisive subject today. And of course, why wouldn't it be? Because there's so many different genres, and we're so, as a society, we're very much ingrained in what we personally want, what we personally believe. Everything is kind of art. We're all the center of our own universe, and so whatever we like a lot, and whatever we hate a lot. Music is a great example of where that can go to this extreme almost. Now, I've never made it a secret that I'm a metalhead. I am very much open about it, and I'm not afraid to say so, because I think heavy metal is the kind of music that, we were meant to get. We were meant to get something that has all the elements from melody and rhythm to, aggression, anger, sadness. There is joy in it as well. There's inspiration, but a lot of it's also about those negative emotions that for the longest time we've never really had a good place to put those, and metal music is a good way to take those negative emotions and channel them into something productive, which is why I find metal to be so valuable. But that's me. Most people I talk to, a lot of them, when you say, what kind of music do you like? Because that's one of those easy icebreakers. It's anybody you meet. There's going to be a couple of, easy ones. It's going to be, what kind of music do you like? What are your hobbies? What type of movies do you like? What's your favorite color? Those kind of questions always seem to come up when you're meeting new people. The music one is always a weird one, and I've struggled with this too in trying to date at times, where they say, what kind of music do you like? The default answer a lot of the times is, oh, I like a little bit of everything. which for some people might be true. There's nothing saying that a person cannot like all kinds of music. But a lot of the times what they're saying there is really, I don't want to tell you what my real preference is, because when you say to somebody, I listen to Nicki Minaj on a constant loop for 12 hours a day, some people might take offense to that or question their sanity. Same thing with metal. A lot of people will say, I'll listen to anything except metal, because metal is more aggressive, it's a little bit darker, it's definitely a lot more, it takes a little bit more faith to get into. So because we have all these like differences in opinion in music, we tend to either, you know, in, put ourselves in the same group as other people who listen to that kind of music. So like all of my friends might be, metalheads or country fans or, whatever. Or we want to be kind of the outcast. It's like, okay, everybody else is listening to this, but I listen to, everyone there is listening to gangster rap. I listen to Mozart. It's like, it's funny how we can use, music as kind of this like, almost hierarchy. It's like, well, I listen to a certain kind and that makes me special and all that. But even within like genres itself, you get people who are vehemently opposed to others who listen to music in that same genre. Metal, it might be the worst of it, because you have people who listen to thrash metal, but they hate people who listen to black metal, or you have people who listen to death metal who hate hardcore. It's this really like bizarre thing that, before I knew all the different genres, subgenres within metal, I would say I just like metal as long as it's got that aggression, that beat, that double bass drum, distorted guitars, all that growling, everything. As long as it's got something like that, I'm set. But within metal, it's not always that clean, and there's a lot of judgment that goes into metal a lot of the times. And the same with other kinds of rap. I just watched the movie Straight Outta Compton this weekend because I was fascinated to see what the story of NWA was. And fantastic movie, by the way. But there's a scene early in the movie when they're starting to kind of figure out who they are, they're starting to put a label together, and they bring in these, this hip hop group from New York or something, and they basically want them to perform in their style but using the lyrics that they wrote, that the NWA wrote. And these guys got really offended by it and called it like stupid, or they just were not interested in doing this kind of really aggressive, realistic, gritty kind of rap, because this was before gangster rap was popular. It was before it was even really realized. I mean, NWA kind of set that standard along with Ice-T. And so, you even within genres of music, you get people who don't want to be part of the other genre. Then you listen, I mean, anytime there's a feud between pop stars, it's like whoever Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj are fighting with these days, it's like, who knows? And it's very strange that it would be so divisive, because music is such an important part of the human experience. And I'll tell you why. Music feeds our emotions. It really does. There's a reason why movies that have really powerful scores can often be movies that we remember the most and be the most powerful, because they take something that's visual, they take something that's very simple, it's just two people interacting or something going on, but they add the music to it, and suddenly you feel your own tension kind of rising, or you feel your own like emotion starting to kind of boil to the surface. I think of a scene like, the shower scene from Psycho is a great example of where they used music. If it was just a woman in a bathroom getting stabbed and all that, then people would just be like, that's disturbing. But to really add to the tension and the fear, they add the music to it, and then it's like, you're gripping. You're absolutely gripped by it. I'm a metalhead, but I'm also a huge fan of like movie scores, like classical music or instrumental music, anything that has that kind of strong emotion behind it, something that, inspires me when I'm writing or when I'm, just kind of reflecting on things or just trying to wind down. Just having that kind of emotionally powerful music behind me is a good way to get into that, to tap into that. That's because music feeds our emotions in so many different ways. The biggest way would be that it makes us happy. Like from the very beginning of music, when we first started learning what music could be, somebody taking a drum and just like, batting a rhythm out on a drum, it made people happy because it was something that kind of, it, brought their emotions out. And it especially is helpful when it starts at a young age. So there's a reason why when, we have kids, we start them off on this really like simple, basic, melodic music, something basically to get them, hear that positive, hear that, the rhythm, the beat, and just kind of remind them that, when you hear this, it makes you happy. We all were there. I mean, none of us started listening to really like dark and aggressive music when we were kids. Well, maybe some of us did. I don't know. But when it starts at a young age and you start, hearing like that, the happy kind of rhythmic, you start to associate music with that feeling, and you learn that music has that power to affect your emotions. And there's even times where sad music can make us indirectly happy, and that's catharsis basically, where we're listening to something that's sad, that's, kind of somber or heavy, and as we're listening to it, it kind of mirrors our emotions, and when it does, when it lines up with how we're feeling at that moment, we actually start to feel a little bit better. We start to like kind of come down from our anger. That's why metal is always so powerful to me, is because when I'm angry, I can listen to something aggressive, and it takes that anger out of me. It matches that anger that I have, takes it out of me, and just like calms me down. So try and figure that one out. But when we're talking about music, especially today, more often than not, we're not talking about the underground stuff or the stuff that's like kind of the, what I listen to. It's mostly going to be what is popular. The industry today is completely absorbed with what is popular. And when we say popular, we're not necessarily saying the best music, because what is the most popular stuff? Now, I'm going to backtrack just a sec, because I'm not saying that this music is inherently bad or it's, made by bad artists. That's not what I'm saying. But that doesn't mean that, the music itself is not necessarily complicated. It's mostly rides off of the strength of the artists themselves and whatever pomp they can put behind it. But the songs themselves are often typically very simple, very rhythmic, just a beat, and the singing kind of takes hold because it's more showcasing the singers as opposed to the music itself. But by having that catchy beat behind it, it gets people to say, okay, I like this. You hear a song once, you might not like it because you hear it and you're just like, well, that's, I don't, not really. But then you hear it again and again and again and again, and you know what happens is because you're hearing that sound over and over again, it's just imprinting in your brain. You almost think it's like brainwashing, and it kind of is like brainwashing, but not necessarily in the negative way. It's just that's the way that music works. If you're going to brainwash somebody, use a rhythm, because rhythms are something that we are just going to remember. It's going to be something that sticks. You're going to be humming that song. You're going to, be thinking about that song because the constant playing of it, it's almost like Stockholm Syndrome. I read an article that they said, to think of popular music almost like Stockholm Syndrome. They basically force you to listen to this stuff over and over again until you just accept. It's like, okay, I like it, fine, okay. It's okay, I like it now. Not necessarily a bad thing, because, music itself is not a bad thing. It's something that we enjoy. It's something that makes our lives better. It makes it easier to get through the day when you have something good to listen to. But what's bad about it is that it's more the music industry using that as a tool to just sell records. It's a subliminal marketing campaign, basically, is to say, okay, you want to buy Apple products because we've got this super catchy tune to hook you in. And so they play that commercial over and over again, and next thing you know, you've spent $1,300 on a laptop. But I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all. But the music itself, I mean, take the industry out of it and just focus on what the music is. Is the music good or bad? Now, the only way you're ever going to answer that question is based on taste. Like in so many things in this world, taste is what defines what is good and what is bad. And you just take enough people saying, I like this or I don't like it, to determine on sort of a global scale if something is good or bad. So, like, for example, if I listen to a song on the radio that I absolutely hate, but 90% of America says that they enjoy it, they enjoy the rhythm, they enjoy the sound of it, then realistically, to me, yeah, it's bad. That's my opinion. But in the broader scheme, it probably is considered a good song because so many people do like it. Now, whether or not they like it because it actually was something that when they first heard it, it blew their minds, or it's something that they heard it so many times that they just surrendered to the song, you'll never know. We'll never know. But because I mean, it's constantly played. It's something that we're gonna hear 1,000 times before finally something new comes along, and they decide to play that song 1,000 times, and so be it. But ultimately, though, it's okay to have a broad taste in music. I mean, as divisive as music is, it's probably a better idea to have a broader taste in music, because at least that way you're not letting anything, you're not ignoring anything, you're not neglecting the possibility that something that outside of what is popular or what is, whatever is being overplayed on television and radio might actually be good, or even something that, it has no hope of ever making it to radio, like new age music, other world music that in the United States might not be very big, but you listen to it and it gives you that good feeling. There's nothing wrong with that. Music, the entire intention of music is it's an art form created to bring our emotions to the surface, to bring out all those emotions, whether it's sadness, happiness, anger, contentment, relaxation, fear. Music brings all of those things out. And it's amazing that it does that, and we can do so much with it, and you can pull from so many different genres of music and get so many different effects and have so many different emotions. Music is fantastic that way. And yet we are still so ingrained in what we like personally that we use that as a way to put down the artists that we don't like. I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I once joined in booing the band Crazy Town off stage, but suffice it to say, Butterfly was one of those songs that, yes, it's still stuck in my head because they overplayed it, but that doesn't make it a good song. So, yeah, just basically, music is good. That's the gist of this whole thing. You just watched 20 minutes of me saying that music is good. Whatever. You didn't have anything better to do today anyway. I'll probably be getting into more topics about music, but just remember that music exists as a really important part of our human experience because it does bring out something that we don't necessarily get from anything else. So, and we always have that song playing in our heads. We always have the narrative, the walking song playing in our heads as we're going through life. And that's because music is a part of who we are. The expression of music is the expression of those emotions, and when we listen to it again, it feeds those emotions that we have. It's cathartic. And that's why I love music, and that's why everyone loves music. But so be it. So I am going to be dark for the next 2 weeks, unfortunately. I know you guys are very sad about that, but I am moving to a new home, so this whole thing is going bye-bye. So it's the last one, and depending on how I set it up next time, it may or may not look like John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson are trying to shoot me in the head. Never know. But until then, so you can catch up on old episodes, watch any of my other stuff on YouTube. Just enjoy. I'll see you in 2 weeks. So thank you for watching. Check out more Paved with Good Intentions right here on YouTube or on iTunes and Stitcher. You can also check out my other videos and anything I've ever favorited. Beware, I do listen to a lot of metal. I warned you already. Be sure to check out my other podcast, Translation, which is found at the link below, as well as on iTunes and Stitcher. And visit me on Twitter at Danny Kessner, or you can find me on Facebook. If you have any questions you'd like me to ponder on the show, send me an email at translationpodcast@gmail.com. I do want to hear from you, so keep in touch. And once again, this podcast is produced sponsor-free, so thank you for supporting independent artists. See you on the other side.